So it's a misty evening, full cloud cover, but not really raining. It's just kind of a mist. And I thought about working outside because it is decent temperature. But we have lots of molding to make and I need it. I could start putting it on in a couple weeks when we go to Lewistown. So I thought, let's just go in the wood shop. I started working on it this morning and we'll do more of it. So I'm going to get the fire going, kind of dry out the chimney, and I have lots of kindling wood. So the cutoffs, move some stuff here. So I might have done some videos similar to this, but I'm going to explain it better. So cutoffs, what are cutoffs? So let's say this is a, imagine that this is an 8-foot board going out this way, and the rest of the board is clean. It's kind of like this, no knots, really clean board. But at the end of it, you have that, and you have that. So what they would do is they'll pull the value of that, the complete board down by having that in there. So if you cut it off, now you have the rest of the board is very good, more like this. And you don't have this gaping hole where a knot was. And then this becomes a cutoff. So what do you do with the cutoffs? Well, fortunately, I have a friend who gives some to me. And I do work there some. So I take the cutoffs, and what I'm going to do is produce a bunch of moldings. And I've been doing this for, well, almost 15 years now because of their projects. So I need to produce, they're 3.5 inches wide. I call it a long start. So it's going to be square, and then the chamfer will start in at like 9 or 10 inches, something like that. I got it marked on my router table. And then double means it's beveled on each side with the router table. And then we have a short start. So the short starts are going on. This is for the bay windows. So we have our 3 bay windows, and so we need each side of each window. So we have 6. I think they're 72 inches long, something like that. And then we have the corners where the bay, the bay comes out like this, over. Let's see, yeah, over, that's a window. Over again, another window. Down again, that's a window. And then back to the wall. And each one of those changes is another set of moldings. So we need a lot of these moldings, and I used up much of what I had. So this morning I went through. So in this case, I'll set my saw to maybe 4 inches wide, and I'll rip this. So that way I have a nice ripped edge right here. Then I'll set both of these aside, and then we'll do another one. So in this one we might have a nice clean 3.5 inch rip here. So from here to here, we're going to have some nice molding. And then the same with the other side. Well, the other side, it might be clean all the way from here up to there. So because this edge right here isn't as clean as what I'll get it when I cut it on here. And same here, that's not as clean of an edge. So I'm going to rip it here at 4 inches. And then after I get this big pile of stuff ripped, then I'll set my saw to 3.5 inches and test it. And then I'll start ripping my molding. And then after that, then we'll get the router table out over there, and we will start doing the edges. Well, I'm sorry, I forgot a step. After we make these rips, then we'll take it over here on the radial arm saw, and we'll put nice square edges on both sides. And for example, once we cut this to 3.5, we'll cut it right here and down here, so we have a nice rectangle 3.5 inches wide. And by doing all of these at once, let's say I'm just like a 30 seconds off 3.5 inches. Well, then they'll all be that 30 seconds off. So they'll still go together nicely. And even if they didn't, once I'm done routering, then I take them over on the belt sander table and just kind of touch the edges a little bit and the ends a little bit, and just kind of clean it up a little bit. Not much, but it doesn't take much because this is white pine. So it's gonna clean up really fast. And I don't try to take the saw marks out or anything like that because it's all going to get painted. And in this case, so we're going to trim it here, trim it there. So that will be one piece of molding, only about 10 inches long. Trim it here and trim it there. We'll bring this one in a little bit because you see you got a little bit of a split going on there. So we'll probably trim it like right there. And we'll still get this much of a molding, probably about another 10 incher right there. So we're not wasting any good wood. We're utilizing these cutoffs, in a way to the max. Really taking advantage of this. And these cutoffs turned into the molding that we've been doing to get to what I'm calling East Lake design, and I think that's a valid term. Well, East Lake definitely is a valid. But I feel after studying the East Lake properties, their estate, East Lake design there, that I'm adding that design on all of our buildings. And I think it's a cool design. I like it a lot. And these cutoffs are making it happen, because otherwise we could spend quite a bit of money on lumber just for the moldings. Okay. Most of them are 3.5 inch. I started early on going 3 inch, and then I switched to 3.5 because it seemed to be more universal as far as, I was given a load of secondary lumber, which is all 3.5 inch. So that really, once I had that, I just kind of stuck with 3.5 inch. Okay. And some of them, some of them might not get any out of. Well, here, for example, we should get a nice one right through here. And then the rest of this, I think, will be just kindling wood. Could get a little out of here, but if you look at this grain flow here, it's curving around, a lot of curvature. If I was to cut a short molding here, look at how wild the grain would be. So I wouldn't trust that a lot, because in the extreme heat and stuff, that might start to warp and give a little twist and stuff like that. So I think I would stay away from that and just, be satisfied that I'm getting a nice rip right down through here and call it a day, and the rest becomes heat. Okay, let's get our stuff on and start ripping.